show brought to you by GetSue.com. I'm your host, Brock Wagner, and I'll be bringing you conversations with culinary entrepreneurs and the digital marketing pros who support them with tools, tech, and strategies for building smarter, more resilient culinary businesses. This podcast, we're built for chefs. I'm joined here by Christopher Sauls, owner of FYM Systems Solutions. Hey, Chris, how you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you on the show. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit more. I know you and I have had a pretty great conversation the last time we spoke. Well, the first time we spoke and last time we spoke. I thought it was a great conversation around the industry, restaurants, technology, the softwares they use. Now, you own FYM Systems Solutions, which, as I understand it, is you provide products and services around websites and online ordering for restaurants. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is that you're doing with FYM Systems and how you help these restaurants?
Yeah. So, and thank you for having me, by the way. I really appreciate it. This is my first time, so, I think it'll be a good starting point, and I am a little under the weather, so apologize for the congestion and everything. But with FYM, I've really just, I grew up working with restaurants when, I've always worked inside of restaurants. Just my daddy worked for US Foods, and that's how it's how I grew up. It's what I was always surrounded with. So I started to kind of see the problems they were having and what they're missing out on, and just how the work relationship was just around restaurants. And so when I was younger, I kind of just got into the online tech computer world during COVID, just because there was nothing else to do, and I started trying to figure out websites, stuff like that. And then I really started to see the problems that restaurants were having once I started doing websites for them. And I realized that the software is really predatory. There's not too many good options. There's not much education around it. And so what I've been trying to do with FYM is just really help all these restaurant owners have the ability to actually own their products and own their services that they're using and own their data, and just be able to be independent and compete with all the national chains that have all these billion-dollar systems that they just have the best developers in the world for, because it's just, like I said, restaurant owners, they're just so involved in the day-to-day, and I think that there has to be some type of education or outside service that helps them kind of get over that bridge. And online ordering, websites, that's just kind of been my way of doing it. Obviously there's plenty of routes you can go, but I wanted to stick to some of the foundational pieces. Just I do Google business profiles, the website, and the online ordering, and because that kind of just covers some of your general online presence stuff, and you can at least make a big impact with those things, and it's it's a low barrier to entry. And so, that's a good summary of it, I would say. But I'm still kind of, choosing and deciding which direction I want to go with it, and, just really niching down. But, mom and pop has been kind of the main person I've been working with recently, because that's just who I've been able to help the most. And that's my goal with it overall, is just to keep helping restaurant owners, make it easier, help them put food on their tables. It's people at the end of the day, so.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I'm so excited to unpack exactly what it is you do, because I think what you're doing is fantastic. I think it's really, really needed in the industry. I love the fact that you're focusing on the mom and pop restaurants. And again, like I said, I'm just excited to unpack and kind of ask you some questions around exactly what it is you do and your take kind of on the industry as it is today, and having worked with some of these mom and pop restaurants. The first thing I just want to make sure to clarify is exactly like where you're located and where are you serving these restaurants? Like, where are your main clientele located?
So my main clientele is in Myrtle Beach and just surrounding cities. There's some in like Calabash, Little River, North Myrtle Beach, just that whole area. But they're all about 45 minutes from each other. I live in Greenville, South Carolina, so that's about 4 hours from here. But this is where I was for about 4 years, and at the end of high school. So this is kind of where I started out and wanted to really test everything And now that I've kind of figured out like, what direction I want to go, somewhat, at least with the, systems I'm trying to use. Now I'm trying to kind of go start expanding, go into other cities, go further out, and so
Well, that's really
Myrtle
cool.
Beach. Yeah, that's the main spot.
That's awesome. You mentioned earlier about some of the problems that you find these restaurants having. You travel around with your dad, with U.S. Foods, and you've seen probably more of the back end of these restaurants than most people have. Even
Mhm.
a lot of the other digital marketers in the space who are attempting to also help these restaurants and these just any kind of like culinary niche business model. But these digital marketers a lot of times don't understand quite what these restaurant owners go through, or food trucks or caterers, or a lot of these
Yep.
businesses. There's a lot of things that are required of them that are actually pretty specific to those industry models that, yeah, they just don't understand. So from your opinion and your take, what do you think is like some of these biggest problems that you've been seeing for these business owners, restaurants and
Yeah.
such?
So I think right now it's really I mean, there are tools that they can use. It's hard for them to bring them all together because you kind of have to be a marketing guy or, a software guy or whatever it is to really understand that all. And since these mom and pops at least are, so involved in the restaurant, like day-to-day stuff, they don't have time to go do all that. But even if they did have the time, there's not that much education around it. The big players, obviously, they all have, tools and systems that work. And a lot of them will use it like Toast and DoorDash and Uber. And, the restaurants, they just don't really know any better because, Uber, for example, will walk in and be like, hey, we're here to set you up whenever, a new restaurant comes into town. And they just get set up not knowing that there might be a way to do it for a lower cost or do it more efficiently or do it in a way that makes their kitchen flow better or whatever it may be. But I just think that right now all the people that are building these tools that the Toast and the DoorDash and the Ubers and all that stuff, they built a technology first and then did stuff towards restaurants, and they just didn't actually go step in the restaurant as much. I mean, there's not people that are really, I don't think they're talking to the owners enough. I definitely think there's a place for all these systems. I don't want to talk down on them whatsoever. I absolutely think that they help a lot of businesses, but I just don't think these restaurant owners are actually even aware that there's other ways to go about it just because it's what's right in front of them and they don't have the time to go do more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you summed that up really, really well. I agree with that wholeheartedly. That, yeah, in these businesses, especially the mom and pop businesses that you're working with, right? They don't have the resources.
Hmm.
The biggest issues tend to be with these businesses is that, well, profit margins are razor thin,
Yeah,
and
very
then
tight.
and then and then now, even right from COVID, it really hyper drove this kind of labor crisis that we still kind of find ourselves in. And I don't know if that's something that you've witnessed or recognized. Higher turnovers, the inability to get people hired, and stay, and talent, and keeping them within the business. Do you think that that's also part of the problem, or have you recognized any of that?
For sure. I think it kind of depends on the type of business it is, but with the higher end places, hiring isn't as bad down here. A lot of the higher end places, they don't need to hire anybody. They have plenty of applications flowing in. But with the quick service restaurants and the mom and pops and all that stuff, especially with the seasonality of where I am, it's really hard to hire people because you just have such high churn. Everyone's kind of offering the same thing. There's not really much uniqueness about what the restaurants are offering. And I think that to get people to stay and to actually be involved and interested in, helping a restaurant do well and actually caring enough to, put some quality into the work, you have to do more than just, offer them, whatever salary or whatever. They have to actually have their purpose in the restaurant because, I mean, in my opinion, when you're hiring people, you have that person you hired, their vision of what they want to do has to fit inside of your business. And so with a chef, for example, if they can't be the type of chef that they want to be, and make the things they want to make, and do it their type of way. They might not care to help your restaurant that much, even if it's a great salary, because they're just not actually producing work that's their work.
Mm.
And so, again, down to the education thing, I think a lot of restaurant owners just don't know how to do that. They don't know how to entice people and how to get them to stay longer and care more about the business and really be involved. But it's definitely a big issue. And I mean, that's hiring, it kills restaurants too. And it goes both ways. It's not just about not being able to find people, but a lot of times restaurant owners aren't educated about how they should hire and how they should do payroll and how, and all that. And so a lot of times restaurants here, they'll overpay their staff, or they'll bring too many people on. They'll have 6 servers on a Wednesday night or whatever, and then just they have to pay those people, obviously. And so that kills the whole vibe of the workplace, because people aren't getting paid well, and you're overpaying your staff because you shouldn't even have that many people in there. And it just kind of, it changes the whole environment. But again, I think it really comes down to the education part of it, because there are ways to hire people, and there are people to hire. It's not like there's any missing pieces. It's just the process, I think, is what's most flawed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there has tend to be an uptick in technology coming out that is really meant to be helping these restaurants. And I know that there's a few pieces of technology that you work with, both for your business, within your business, that allows you to provide solutions to them, but also, you're connected with some people who have solutions as well. But there's a term that I'll be honest, I've been using it since you said it the last time on the phone call, because I'm like, man, that's exactly how I've been trying to describe it, but I didn't even, the word eluded me. But you called them predatory technologies, and I want to say that not all technologies are predatory. Like I said, there's better ones coming out more and more, but the culinary industry, in my opinion, has been lagging severely on technology and digital marketing, compared to other business models and other industries. I know that I'm in a group with you, as part of high level, and I see a few posts here and there about culinary businesses, mainly restaurants, but there's very
Yeah.
few. There's very, very few. Like you guys
Very
are,
few.
I think you're also part of another group that I joined, which was like a restaurant agency group. And it is a very niche market compared to digital marketers for chiropractors, dentists, other kinds of businesses. Well, particularly coaching, right? That's a huge one. But yeah, you use the word predatory, and you mentioned, Uber Eats coming in or Grubhub, and they're setting them up. Tell me a little bit about what your take is or experience is, with some of those apps, and just not that anybody shouldn't be use them. I think that it's very good to utilize those apps, for the
For sure.
restaurant. But do you have anything that you would, advise or recommend, for business owners like these small mom and pop restaurants when they go to work with them? Anything that you would suggest?
Yeah, so like I said, everything does have its place, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm putting any of these softwares down in any way. It's just they have certain use cases. It's more about how you use it than should you use it, yes or no. I mean, obviously that matters too, but the application is the important part. And so with DoorDash and Uber and all that stuff, what they do is they market your company more, and they put you up, but it's a competitive marketplace, because all the restaurants they have, they'll have some that spend 30%, so they get seen more. Some are paying 20% on orders, so they get seen a little bit less, and so that's the environment that you're going to be working with. So you just kind of have to think about, like, how can I maximize the situation? And so if you have, a direct online ordering option where, you can send an order and it's not charging you 30%, it's, you have something, whether it's through your POS or it's a third party system integrated, what you could do with that is, still go on DoorDash, still go on Uber, still be on all the different places where you can be in front of customers, but just don't promote anything that's not directly your restaurant. Like, for example, say that, you have DoorDash orders going out all the time. You could put a flyer inside of each one that says, order direct, get a free appetizer or whatever, to, and have it linking to with the QR code to your website. That's just, one of the small ways you could do it. But you kind of want to just, like I said, find the use case for each platform and then maximize it, because they all have their different pros and cons. And you don't want to, not be in front of those customers, of course, but you don't want to be pointing everyone towards DoorDash when they're taking 30% of your revenue and like you said, a very tight margin business, because that's just going to, kill your margins. And then, you don't really have much to work with after that. And I think that a lot of times the restaurants will focus on just the return of the order, but a lot of times there's other pieces to it that really matter even more than just that first order's price. Like if you make $50 off of your Uber customer or whatever, that's great and all, but you're not going to get the data from that customer. It's going to be hard to market to them again. They're going to promote other restaurants to that customer, and I think that everyone needs to think about the landscapes more that they're working with, because there's different buying intents whenever customers are actually looking at your restaurant. Like if I find a restaurant on Facebook or whatever, it's just because I'm scrolling. If I find a restaurant on Google, it's because I'm searching for food near me and I'm hungry. If I'm looking on, I find a restaurant on, let's say, TikTok, for example, whatever, I really don't care about food and I'm not hungry. It's just, I happen to see it. And, if I find you on DoorDash, because I was looking for something, but not for that specific restaurant, there's all these different little nuances about each one that are going to change. And, people need to start focusing more on all the other details about that customer than the actual price of their order, because the customer at the end of the day, that's really what matters for the restaurant. And you want that customer coming back, and you want them to be a lifetime customer. And if you can, use a direct platform, even if you're making less money theoretically through that first order, if you can get that customer to be a better customer, then in the long run, it'll be worth it. And, I just think that people need to open up their view of it. It's very narrow-minded to just be thinking about, which one costs more, or which one will get me orders faster or whatever. Because if you can build your own sustainable growth machine, basically, of customers, then that's what's going to actually keep you afloat, during the hard times. And that's what you can rely on. And whenever you're, having slower days and everything, because then you can go hit up all those customers and send them a message or send them a whatever, send them a push notification through an app and reach out to them, and you can use that database, and there's just, like I said, it's all education to me. It's all about just knowing that there's other options, there's other ways to do it, and there's just better processes.
This episode of Built for Chefs is powered by GetSous.com, the digital sous chef for your business. Whether it's streamlining bookings, managing contacts, or professionally invoicing, Sous is built to support culinary businesses on their path to growth. Start your free trial today by visiting GetSous.com. That's GETSOUS.com, and experience the future of culinary business management. I love that. I think that's super, super insightful, and I find it very interesting. So essentially what I'm hearing you saying is to basically focus on creating customers, not creating transactions.
Yeah.
To essentially, you can utilize these platforms like the Uber Eats and the Grubhubs, but essentially look at it as the first step of your funnel, right? Where it's like you're generating a lead, but then what is your strategy in order to capture them as a customer? And you mentioned having information that goes inside the bag, that goes to them, that helps them to make the decision when they do come back as a reorder, that they maybe do it through a different method. So I think that it's really smart. And again, it's the broader context, right? So you're thinking of the different strategies in the context around how they're ordering, the purpose behind their order through a certain platform. And you outlined a couple of very specific use cases that I think is really, really important for these business owners in order to start thinking of that more broadly. And it really, I think I would advocate right alongside of you of saying, hey, listen, we know that as a business owner, you feel like you're really in the day-to-day, and you might be just feeling like you're just keeping your head above water, but it's going to be really important to take and set some time aside and actually think about these things that you've been advocating on just now. Is, hey, think about when they're ordering through platforms, what is the reason that they're ordering through that platform? Is it that they're getting on Grubhub, but they're looking for something to eat, but not necessarily your restaurant? If they're going to Facebook and find you there, it's that, maybe they came across you and now they're interested in coming in. So Chris, tell us a little bit about how you help them to solve some of these things, because you've mentioned a few times about, a big problem being education, basically like being educated in some of these digital marketing strategies, business concepts, things that will help them utilize the tools and the systems. But just give me some details about what it is that you provide, and maybe some things that you've seen happen for these restaurants in terms of the results that you've gotten them and how you help them.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things, aside from, the savings and all that, because like I said, that is an important thing, but it's more about the customer, not the transaction, And so the support has been a big player for all my restaurants. I think it might even be bigger than the savings to an extent, because with these restaurants and these mom and pops that are so in the day-to-day, what they need is someone that they can, go reach out to whenever they don't know what to do, or whenever they need to figure something out, or whatever it is, or they need to go get a refund from DoorDash or Uber and such. It could be anything, of course. But what we do at FYM is we have a dispatch center, and basically anytime an order goes out to a customer, they'll get their text receipt and everything, and they'll get an email and the whole tracking link, all that. And on each one of those email receipts is a phone number to our customer support. And so we have this customer support phone number for each restaurant, and our restaurant also has their own phone number that they can call for support with their restaurant. And so anytime that there's any issue, like they need to do a refund, or a driver, got in a wreck, or a driver didn't deliver the food, or whatever it may be, our dispatch team will go to Uber, they'll go to DoorDash or whichever service it may be that didn't fulfill that order, and go make sure that they get that refund. They'll talk to their support to, try to get everything refunded into their account. They'll call the customer to make sure, everything is fine with them, see how they want to go about it, if they want to reorder, whatever it is, if they just want to refund and, just get something later. And that's been the biggest thing for my restaurants, because whenever they're, in the middle of the rush on Saturday night at 7 p.m., whatever, and it's just slammed, they can't try to go to DoorDash and get a refund. That's like, if you're a restaurant owner, you probably already know what it's like trying to reach support for most of these big companies and these software companies. And that's just not something that you're able to do while you're in the business. And by the time, the day is over, it's not like you really have time to go hunt down DoorDash anyways, and you're beat up and tired anyways. And so just being able to have someone that, it's kind of like we're like a filter almost for these restaurants. We solve a lot of these problems, and there are times where we have to go to the restaurant and say, hey, like, you need to change this item on the order, and you need to cook something else. It might be something like that. But if we filter out most of these questions that are coming in, like, where's my food? When's it going to be here? Where's this item? Blah, blah, blah. Or why is the pricing this way? All that stuff. The 90 to 95% of, things that of calls that come through to the restaurant are just those little queries that are, not even really stuff that the restaurant owner needs to answer. And so if you can implement a system like that, it takes away a lot of the work. And like, a lot of owners think that by going and adding this system, or not just my system, but any system that might help them, that it'll, take all this work and everything. The thing is, like, you're going to be busy and slammed all the time, and you're always going to be stressed out and worried. So you might as well get a system in place that will help you later on to make it easier while you're already, in the thick of it. because if you can do everything while you're in the thick of it, everything's gonna be great while you're, having good times, of course. Um, it's I think I think again, it's just kind of I hate to keep going back to the education stuff, but I just think there's a narrow view of how it all should work, and they just I think there's lots of ways that they can apply all these systems to really, just make have more meaningful transactions with their customers. They can get them to stay longer, they can get them to spend more and make it easier. It's easier on everyone because then they're like, whenever you have all these systems in place that are automating some things and filtering out, a bunch of questions that you don't need to spend time answering, then you don't have to have your host, taking phone calls all the time, and you don't have to, be having the chef run over and, helping out with this table or whatever, because everyone gets to do their own job and fulfill their own piece, and if you don't have systems in place, everyone's going to be kind of doing everything. And, I think that if people would just start to, realize that there's more out there and start cleaning everything up, it really would take away all the stuff that does make it so difficult to run a restaurant, and it makes it better for the customer. It's not like adding these systems in is hurting anybody, because it's a win for the customer, it's a win for the restaurant, and it just makes everything smoother. But yeah, I mean,
I think I think that's a huge thing that I wonder. I don't want to make any assumptions for the broader industry and all these business owners, but I do wonder if there's at times, because you're in obviously in this industry, it's all about hospitality and service. It's about pleasing the customer. It's about having those relationships. It's about being very personable. And sometimes I wonder if part of this lag in adopting technology and systems and the things that we're talking about is because there's this maybe misconception or false belief that adding them in will end up hurting that relationship, or and that's totally not the case. Systems, when used properly, can help be a great supplementation to certain things, right? Like you're saying, when people have questions and they're, it's like putting out fires, things like that, as they're coming in because it's a hot Saturday night, you got to address all these things that might be happening with orders. If you have a system in place that can help address those things, they're not necessarily looking all the time. People aren't always looking for, I need to have this 15-minute phone conversation with somebody. They're just looking to know that, hey, they've noticed me, right? They recognize that I had an issue. I have a response. And unfortunately, with any business, I think very particularly in this industry, in the culinary industry, but I think just in any business, owners can so quickly kind of become the silo. They can become the bottleneck because they want to make sure that there's all these touch points and a human interaction. And then, like you said, well, you have to invest in those people. And then you have to hope that they don't turn over. You have to hope that they have the same aligned vision and mission as you, and that they're going to be able to keep up with that and be able to do that. There's a lot of resources and things that that has to go into that. And then they end up hurting themselves more than helping themselves, because like you said, they're not really taking the time to say, hey, you know what? I know it'll take a bit possibly to put these systems in place, but then it's just going to increase the lifetime value of every single person who walks through my door or orders something online. So I think that's super, super fantastic. And now, you and I haven't talked too many times, but I get this feeling that maybe you're probably a pretty humble guy around some of the things that you've been capable of doing. But I'm just going to kind of brag on you a bit, because I do know a little from our conversation and knowing a little bit about your business, about what you've been capable of doing for these businesses. And, there's one case example. I know it's on your site as well, but you literally helped somebody to add over 70,000 in revenue and created a 10% increase in revenue per order as well. And I just think that is something that, nothing to bat an eye at. That's huge.
I appreciate that.
So I just
Yeah.
want to, what else have you been capable of doing for these restaurants? Like, what are some things that immediately come to your mind? Maybe not even just about obviously dollar amounts or anything like that,
Hmm.
but some of the ways you've helped these restaurant owners.
Yeah. Um, what's crazy about it all is that I was talking to my dad about this the other day too, and it was just one of the things I didn't really realize would happen when I was getting into it. But at the end of the day, like, it's all just about people. I mean, behind every restaurant, there's a person, and that person probably has a family. They have a reason they're doing the restaurant. There's a reason for everything, of course. They're just trying to make it like we all are. And so a lot of times, just being a type of person that they can go to when, like I said, they need to figure something out and they just don't know where to start even. That has been one of the bigger things I think that I've been able to help with, just because, like, they'll come ask me about, some system or some software or some process, or like, hey, should I do this? Should I do that? And I might not know the answer, but I know how to find the answer better than they would. And so if I can go get that answer for them faster and, help them and kind of give them a shortcut to whatever problem it is that they're trying to solve, then, I think that, I mean, that's just what I try to do. I just try to make it quicker, easier, better, whatever it is. I have my systems and stuff that I sell specifically of my own, but being able to point people in directions has done the most for me, because there's gonna be a lot of times that they'll need stuff that's completely outside of my scope of work, and with restaurants and the food business, there's just so many moving pieces. And so just being able to be a resource for somebody, that's been a big thing. And, being a friend, really, being someone they can text. There's a lot of times where it's late and they just got slammed, whatever, they're closing up, and they're the only one in the restaurant because everyone else is paid and, going home. And they're just stressed and they're like, I don't know what to do. How do I fix this? Like, how do I get out of this situation? How do I start getting my restaurant to work for me instead of working for my restaurant? And just being able to provide for those people and, like I said, either point them the right direction or give them the solution myself has definitely been the way I could help the most. And I think the support side of it really is bigger than the dollar amount or the transactions and everything, because that leads to so many more, obviously, transactions, and that's included in solving that problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you definitely seem to have a heart for serving. I think that you're such a great fit for helping these restaurants and restaurant owners. You definitely know your way around. I mean, you've been experienced with your dad and with U.S. Foods and working with these restaurants. I think what you were mentioning is actually a perfect segue into wrapping up the episode, which is simply, in giving advice, in giving kind of like your recommendations, your support to anyone out there who does own a little restaurant or any kind of like food business. We'll just stick on restaurants. What would be like the number one thing you feel could help them if they just simply implemented it, or whatever suggestion you have that you feel would make the most impact for them?
Yeah. Good question. I would. I'll give you two things if you don't mind.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
one's
No,
more
go for it.
tactical
We'll go
one's more
one
tactical
and a bonus.
when one's more, yeah, one's more, just about people, I guess.
Okay.
So first, I would listen to everybody, of course. Listen to every service and software and system that comes in. Listen to everyone that offers you something, but have a good and a strong and a clear filter for what you're looking for. But be very open to it, of course. But don't just say yes because it's what you've heard of, or don't just say no because you haven't heard of it. There's a lot of local things that people offer. There's a lot of national, systems and softwares and whatever that you can use. But hear everybody out, but just think more, decide more, look into them. If you can't look into them, find somebody that can look into them. If you have a nephew or a cousin or a friend or a coworker or whatever that, is good with computers or whatever, then ask them to look into it for you. Don't just go look at the top of the water. You have to go in deeper and really start to understand things, because you're setting up a business for yourself, and it's an asset. You can't just say yes because other people are using it, because you don't know that's what will work best for you. But the tactical piece, I would just focus on buyer intent, and just learn about buyer intent on different platforms. A lot of marketing agencies and social media people, whatever, will come and tell you, like, hey, post on TikTok, you need to post on Facebook, that's how you blow up your restaurant. You can get all these views, but a lot of times people don't think about what the views actually mean and the throughput of everything. And so go look at buyer intent, just learn about it, see which platforms have different buying intents. Obviously Google is search based. Facebook is attention based, so that's a starting point for anybody. But think about who you're trying to sell to, because like you said, it's about the customer and not the transaction. And so you want to get people who are not just going to give you a quick one-time transaction that you don't make much money off of, but you want to go find people that are going to stay with your restaurant for the next 10 years, or it'll be their to-go spot. But those are my two. So sorry for the extra one, but
no, I don't think you need to apologize at all for that one. I think that's fantastic. And those are such foundational things that can be so easily overlooked, because they're just, a lot of us, anybody going into business, we can get stuck thinking about the outcomes, but we forget about the inputs, like what is required to get there. So I think the two that you highlighted are fantastic. I love that. And I think anybody listening should take that to heart and think about the ways that they can go implement it. Now, in terms of FYM systems and all these other tools that are out there, do your research, do those things. Listen, anybody who's listening, as business owners, we all have two choices. Either we try to figure it out ourselves and we go out there and we learn. And as Chris said, we stay open to learning and open to hearing people out, or we find ways to invest in these things, skip the long lines, get there faster, get there better. So if anyone out there is interested in working with FYM systems, if you're there in that location where Christopher's at, and you want to improve on your website and online ordering to drive more orders, lower costs, and as Christopher mentioned earlier, get that full support. And I'll just use your words here from your site, man, from first click to last bite, because I love that. I think that's fantastic. Then head over to fymsystems.com. Check out everything that he has, his products, his case studies. He's got some really fantastic things there. I've gotten to know you, Chris. I think you're a fantastic person. I love speaking with you. I love that you took the time to come on to this episode with me. I think what you provided, there's tons of gold nuggets in there. People should go back and listen to this episode again. But appreciate you being on, and look forward to talking with you even more.
Yeah, man, this was great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the show, Built for Chefs. Do you feel like you need to stay ahead of the curve? Then keep up on the latest tech, tools, and strategies in the culinary industry by subscribing to this podcast and join the conversation, because building a thriving food business takes more than just skill. It takes innovation and vision.